will need to do the best they can in their own career. And, I've got almost, crazy to think, 30 years of experience in the certification field. My field just launched a certification program for certification professionals. And I participated in that beta exam last month, which was really interesting. But it does make you stop and think about the fact that even though you might have a lot of experience, you certainly don't know everything about your entire profession, or are you an expert at all of those things? So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, is what's inside the talent development capability model, how you can use it to develop yourself and continue to grow and develop, and even how you can use it with your teams. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh, may I please have screen sharing capability?
Yes, sorry, I forget that it's like,
that's okay, I know. I
preset to the other. There you go.
Awesome, so here we go. Here, I always think I'm so fancy and I can, no, it doesn't want, there we go. Just a little lag time. Okay, so there we go. So again, ATD's talent development capability model, which you can use as a blueprint for your success. Also, I do want to mention, I'm going to pop the chat open for myself over here. We're a small group, so feel free to take yourself off mute. If you have a question, jump right in or pop it up in the chat, and I will try to answer it in line with our conversation. So really just to kind of get everyone on the same page, what is the talent development capability model? And it, of course, is a competency framework that's designed to set a common standard for what talent development professionals need to know and be able to do in order to be effective and successful. ATD has been in the competency modeling business since 1941, and this is actually our 9th iteration of a model, and it really underpins everything that we do. If you attend an ATD conference, particularly the international conference, most of our tracks follow the areas in our competency, now capability models. Our publications team, when they're developing books for ATD Press, looks at the capability model to make sure that we have resources, both in book form, articles, videos, all kinds of things. So, and our education team is in the process of revamping all of our education courses to make sure that they align with the capability model. So it really does underpin everything that we do. It is research-based. This was actually the research that was the basis for this model, is actually the largest batch of research that we've ever had. We did literature review, we did interviews with thought leaders, focus groups of participants who were at the ATD headquarters office for courses. We used our Chief Talent Development Officer Next, our CTDO Next group as a focus group, and we distributed an occupational survey out to the field. And so some of you may actually have responded to that survey. We had over 3,300 usable responses from around the world. It's our largest response rate ever, and the first time we had an international audience. So we use that data to really create, again, this framework that hopefully is flexible, that you can use to customize it for your job role and whatever stage you are at your career. And we rolled this out in January 2020, which was kind of ironic a little bit. Here's a new framework. Now we're going to turn your world upside down and make you use skills you didn't know you needed in ways you didn't know you needed to use them. But I am happy to say that a recent survey out to the field, there was kind of a pulse survey to see how the capability model was holding up, told us that we hit the mark. There isn't anything missing, even despite everything that we have gone through over the past 2 years. So what is in the capability model? So the capability model is, again, a framework, a competency model for talent development professionals. It is broken into 3 domains of practice, and we'll talk a little bit about each one. And those 3 domains of practice are further broken down into 23 capabilities. We have designed this particular model to be slightly more evergreen than past competency models, where sort of the baby got thrown out with the bathwater when we revised them. But we're really trying to set talent development professionals up for the future and make sure that all of you have the knowledge and skills that you need to be flexible, to be agile, and to help your organizations do the same. Our research really showed that effective talent development professionals have to blend their knowledge and skills across all of these 3 domains of practice in order to make the biggest impact within their organization for talent development. And so while this model is sort of all-encompassing, it again is designed so that you can customize the knowledge and skills that you need for your role, and either identify knowledge and skills that you might need for that next new role, or things that you want to dive deeper in to kind of enrich your own talent development practice. Everybody with me so far? Okay. So to dive in a little bit and take a look at the model itself, we'll start with building personal capability, and we're not starting there because it is any more or less important than the other 2 domains of practice. This was actually a key point that came out of our research. If you were at all familiar with previous ATD competency models, the most recent one, in fact, was kind of a pentagon shape. It looked a little bit like a Trivial Pursuit playing piece with little triangles that were areas of expertise that really focused on talent development specific skills. And at the bottom of that model was sort of a base that included some foundational or enabling competencies. And so because they were at the bottom, both ATD and talent development professionals didn't pay a lot of attention to them. And so what our research showed was that a lot of these capabilities that we find in this particular domain of practice are in many cases more important for the practice of talent development than some of the very specific kind of technical talent development skills. And so we really wanted to elevate them and be on the same playing field, the same plane as the other kinds of knowledge and skills. So again, building personal capability really embodies those foundational or enabling knowledge, skills, and abilities that are really needed for every professional. But we tried to hone in on those that were of particular importance to someone in talent development. So again, largely interpersonal skills. You won't be surprised here to find things like communication, and that of course is both in writing and verbally. Emotional intelligence and decision-making, certainly for any professional, but particularly for trainers, being able to read the room, be able to respond to how people are reacting, and to kind of have a consistent way of approach of making decisions. So not surprising to have those things included. Collaboration and leadership, that's where we talk about our team building and negotiation skills and our own personal leadership skills. And again, this is not developing those skills for others, but in this case is your own personal leadership skills. Plays well with others. That's what I like to call that particular capability. Then we have cultural awareness and inclusion. In our previous model, this was called global mindset. And in this go around, we've really expanded the knowledge and skills there to encompass more than just cultural diversity, but sort of all the different kinds of diversity that there are, and how we can, as talent development professionals, make sure that we take all of those things into consideration and make people feel more included. So a lot of the DE&I principles that many of us have been focused on over the past 2 years would fall into that cultural awareness and inclusion. Then we come to project management. I think every professional should have a little bit of project management skills. Again, we're not talking about the PMP level of project management, but really those skills that allow you to deliver a project on time and on budget, and to work with different vendors and people across your organization to complete that project. Then we have compliance and ethical behavior. This is really the first time some of these knowledge and skills are making an appearance in a competency model for us. And here we're not talking about developing compliance training, but really a talent development professional's own compliance with things like labor law or trademark law or privacy regulation in the work that they do. So when you're pulling in a video clip into a learning solution that you're presenting, making sure that you're following appropriate trademark or copyright law. When you're collecting learner data, making sure that you're being conscious and aware of what parts of what you're collecting is PII and what you have to be careful about protecting. And then also touching up against some of those places where talent development dovetails with traditional HR kinds of things, and being aware of how to work with a diverse workforce and a dispersed workforce, which of course we all had to learn pretty quickly over the past 2 years. So that's what's about compliance and ethical behavior. It's practicing talent development in an ethical and compliant way. And then last but not least in this particular domain of practice is lifelong learning, which certainly captures the passion that all of you have around making sure that people can, yourself included, take prior learning and apply it to new situations, that you know how to build a network of colleagues and peers that you can rely on to build your own knowledge and skills. And again, that commitment to lifelong learning. So of course, ATD was not the only group over the past couple of years to realize the importance of these skills. A number of other reports came out. IBM released an enterprise skill gap report that talked about what a great job companies had done over the past several years, helping to upskill their employees on technical skills, but then really pointed to the fact that companies now had to focus on softer skills such as communication, collaboration, and teamwork. So that was echoed there. And the last 3 years worth of LinkedIn workplace learning reports have also focused on communication and personal leadership skills as key areas and priorities for training. So again, this kind of falls in line with what sort of the rest of the world of work is saying about the need to develop these knowledge and skills. And certainly in the Pulse survey that we did, people continued to express the importance of communication and emotional intelligence skills in particular over the past several years, past 2 years, going on year 3, in dealing with the pandemic and sort of the disruption that we've all had in the way that we're working. So moving on, professional capabilities. This is really the core. Developing professional capability covers those core technical specialized talent development skills, those knowledge, skills, and abilities that talent development professionals need to be effective, to create the learning solutions, the processes and systems that will help people be able to learn and grow and develop and improve their performance. So you find the traditional things here like instructional design, training, delivery, and facilitation. Those certainly have been in ATD competency models for quite some time. But we also then added an entire new domain around learning or capability around learning sciences, and really in recognition of the explosion of research about the brain and learning and adult learning that's happened over the past several years. And regardless of someone's role in talent development, our research showed that it was important for people to have at least a familiarity with some of those adult learning principles. And even so, even if you're not an instructional designer or a trainer, if you're in the OD space or a learning technologist, really understanding and being able to work from a place of understanding some of those concepts is important. So that's a whole new expanded area. Here we certainly see career and leadership development, which is something that talent development professionals have been doing for years. And this is about helping other people develop in their career and developing leadership skills in others. But this is actually the first time that ATD has codified the skills that people need to actually do those things effectively. So that was a whole new area as well. So again, focused really on creating that pipeline of talent within your organization. Coaching is here. That certainly has been in competency models before. And again, looking at that, not only from the formal capital C coaching perspective, but from the coaching, little c, and mentoring perspective as well, developing those skills in people who are not even in talent development, but basically any manager working on their coaching skills. Knowledge management, never a popular or sexy topic, but I think particularly over the past several years with people working remotely, people not being able to bump into each other over the coffee machine, to share some of that informal knowledge that helps people do their job better. So making sure that talent development professionals are developing the skills that help them understand how best to capture and codify some of that institutional and organizational culture, that kind of knowledge and skill, and be able to disseminate it to everyone. Evaluating impact, I guess, is the last capability. Oh no, there's two more. Evaluating impact, certainly making sure that talent development professionals have the skills to think about what outcomes they are hoping to get from their learning solutions, making sure that those solutions are designed to capture what information they need to evaluate that impact, and then actually being able to do that so that they can report it out to an organization, whether that means performance improvement, efficiencies, or hopefully a positive impact on the bottom line, understanding all the different things that might encompass how we might go about doing that evaluation. And then finally, technology application. This used to be called learning technologies. It only had 2 or 3 knowledge and skill statements. It's now one of our largest capability areas with about 15 knowledge and skill statements, really in recognition of the integral role that technology plays in all our lives. And it's not just familiarity around learning and development and delivery, software and platforms, but concepts around integration, evaluation of systems, and really how much of technology has become an essential component of work, kind of in this, I would like to say post-COVID world, but I don't think we're there yet, kind of in the midst of this pandemic. And then finally, impacting organizational capability. Most of the capability, or domain of practice, most of the capabilities here are actually new capabilities. So new concepts that we've added into our competency model. And we did that to really reflect the new and expanded scope of the role that talent development can play within an organization. And these are things that are really more related to big picture and systems approach to talent development and the impact that talent development can have on an organization as a whole. So some very basic things, something that was included at the bottom of a previous competency model, business insight, which is basic business acumen, understanding budgets, understanding how to manage vendors, being able to read a balance sheet, some of those very basic business skills. Important that talent development professionals at least understand those. Here then we have talent strategy and management. It used to be called managing learning programs. And this, of course, is a capability area that's important for making sure that organizations can meet their current talent needs, but that they're also preparing to pre-solve for the future challenges that they're going to have, and the role that talent development can play in identifying who can be upskilled and moved into a new position, where hiring needs to happen for specific skill sets, or where outsourcing would be most appropriate. That also, of course, assumes that talent development has that seat at the table and understands the direction of an organization. And again, it's that sort of future outlook so that it can help plan for that. New here is consulting and business partnering. This was also a big theme that came out of our research. And this is designed to help TD professionals develop the skills that will help them connect across the entire organization. So the ability to truly understand the needs of a business unit, the needs of organizational leadership, so that they can devise the most appropriate approach to solving whatever problem there is. And also how to make sure that the organizational leadership understands the role and impact that talent development has and can play within an organization. That too is also one of our largest capability areas. So we have then more traditional things like performance improvement, the ever popular change management. And boy, did we all learn what we didn't know about change management over the past couple of months. New also organization development and culture, and that includes some traditional OD concepts, but also the importance of the role that talent development can play in creating a culture of learning within an organization. And then finally, the last two, both two new capability areas, data and analytics, which again, in recognition of the role that big data plays and the importance of organizations making data-driven decisions. And so trying to give talent development professionals the knowledge and skills to be able to think in those terms, know how and when to collect that data, and then how to present it in a way that will be useful for an organization. And then future readiness, which is an entire capability area, again, around building talent development skills to be future focused. It includes things like environmental scanning, not just within talent development to identify trends that might be helpful to your talent development practice, but also kind of understanding the environment, the labor market in which you work, but also what does the industry that you work in look like, and what's the outlook and the environmental scan for that, again, so that you as a talent development professional can be prepared to help your organization meet whatever change is coming. This also has skills around fostering innovation and creative thinking, and also around, evaluating things like emerging technology. And many people, organizational leaders in particular, get attracted by that shiny new thing that gets released. And so what kind of critical thinking skills do we need to be able to critically evaluate those things to determine whether they're suitable for our organization? So that's kind of a big overview of all of the things that are included in the talent development capability model. And so, okay, you might think, great, ATD's done all this research, kind of what's in it for me? Why should I think about the talent development capability model? And of course, when we built it, we certainly built it with talent development professionals in mind. And so individuals can use the model to look at the full scope of it and assess where their current knowledge and skills stand against what they might need to succeed in the future. We've seen people use the model to set performance objectives. Kind of a good time of year to be thinking about that. So what new knowledge and skills can you develop or deepen your understanding of that you can then leverage in your own talent development practice? And so then building that personal development plan to help you close those gaps. If you have your eye on a job move, looking at the knowledge and skills that you might need to be able to step into that role, and finding resources to help you close those gaps so that you're ready to take on that new position. Or certainly, if you were interested in pursuing one of the industry's flagship certifications, either the Associate Professional in Talent Development or the Certified Professional in Talent Development, both of those are based on the capability model. They don't cover the entire model, but they cover basically an appropriate subset of it for each credential. And so using the model to be able to assess your readiness for those credentials. So when we built the talent development capability model, we knew that a graphic wasn't going to cut it, that this was going to be a little more complex. And we wanted to be able to really have people dive in and interact with the model, understand what's in it, understand those things that might not be part of their current job role or practice today, but that might be useful, again, to grow and expand their own knowledge and skill sets, or to expand a knowledge and skill set that might make them a better partner within their organization with another business unit. If you're at ATD anyway, we have a great data and analytics team who can help me get data and help me translate it into usable information. But me being able to at least understand some of what they do and be able to speak some of their language makes me a better partner with them and makes their job easier, and certainly makes my job easier as well. So that's just one small example, because I've certainly heard people say, oh, I don't do that. I don't deal with performance improvement. Okay, fair enough, but having an understanding, at least on some level, being slightly informed about performance improvement knowledge and skills, again, provide you with a few more tools in your toolkit, or make you a better colleague with someone else. So we wanted to provide a tool where you could jump in and take a look at the actual knowledge and skill statements, but then to provide you with a platform to be able to assess where your knowledge and skills sit currently, and then to actually create a plan to help you close those knowledge and skill gaps. And so we wanted to find a way to connect you with the ATD resources that can help you do that. So I'm actually going to jump out to the interactive website that we developed to give you a look at how you can actually use the model itself. People have questions so far? Before I we good so far? All right, so hopefully you now can see that we're on the ATD website. And so this is how you can access the capability model. And again, as Debbie pointed out at the top, you do not need to be an ATD member of any kind to access the capability model. It's free to everyone. And all aspects of it are free. Exploring it is definitely free for everyone. And a member of the public can go on and do that. If you would like to use the self-assessment feature or use the learning plan feature, you do need to create a td.org profile, but there's no cost associated with that. You just need to have a profile on the website so that we can save your self-assessment and save your learning plan. So you come to the website and you log in, and hopefully you are familiar with the new My ATD dashboard. Has this little button at the top. So we're going to click on the My ATD button. And it's going to take us to the dashboard or the landing page. It's thinking. All right. And so here you are. If you are an ATD member, your member information will be over here on the right. You'll see on the left your sort of profile, but right in the middle at the top is a tile that says TD capability model. And so this is where you can access the model. If you have a self-assessment, you see here it says finish the self-assessment. If this individual, this user had completed their self-assessment, there would be check marks here. But this individual, your chosen learning path and learning plan can be accessed here as well, and we'll cover all of that. So we're gonna click on view the capability model and go out to the interactive site. And you kind of land on this landing page. This is a fully interactive page. You can start to click around and see what is included in each domain of practice, see all of the capabilities. And this really puts us at step 1 from the bottom of the page, that explore the model version. So we're gonna, let's jump into, learning sciences. So you can click on a particular capability and it's going to take you to that capabilities landing page. So just to give you a little orientation, you'll see there's the domain of practice that it's in is highlighted. We also have some, color coordination going on here. If you were in a different domain of practice, it would either be yellow or green. But we're in developing professional capability, so it's blue. And at the top of the page, you see the name of the capability, learning sciences, and then we have an official ATD definition for that capability. So it's going to basically give you a sense of what's covered in that capability and why it's important to talent development. And then underneath that, you're going to see the specific knowledge and skill statements associated with that capability. So Learning Sciences has 5 KSAs, and here they are. And so it's just an opportunity for you to kind of read through and reflect on them and start to see how all of these things start to be interconnected. From the left-hand navigation, you can then click on any other capability and you'll get the same look. You get the definition and all of the knowledge and skill statements. You can then jump right over to another domain of practice, and again, all fully interactive. So jumping around and taking a look. After you've had the opportunity to explore a particular capability, then you can jump to this middle tab to the self-assessment. And you see it has a little lock here. That's what would require an ATD profile. If you weren't logged in, the lock would be closed and you would need to log in or create a profile in order to perform that self-assessment. So you will then see all of the capabilities listed here. I'm going to pick a shorter one. Let's go to training, delivery, and facilitation. And you're going to see that it basically looks very similar. You have the definition at the top. You have all of the knowledge and skill statements, but now we also have a reading scale. And so this self-assessment is not a psychometrically validated assessment. We thought about that, but there are actually 188 knowledge and skill statements. So that would have been almost 2,000 test questions. So we didn't think people would sit through that kind of assessment. So again, this is instead really a personal barometer for you to think about what is my level of proficiency? Where does my skill set lie relative to each of these knowledge and skill statements? We have over here on the right a rating key that you can click on that then gives you more explanation about what each of these proficiency levels mean. So exploring, informed, capable, advanced, expert, and a little description of what that looks like for each knowledge and skill level. So then you want to go ahead and start making that self-assessment. And as I do this, you'll sort of see over on the left, we've got a little activity on a bar over here, and it is calculating my proficiency level based on my selection. So you'll see here, 39% is my now proficiency score for the training, delivery, and facilitation capability. It is also then rolling up my score to a proficiency score for the entire domain. So if you watch as I go through instructional design, not only is it giving me a score for instructional design, but it is going to also then change my overall proficiency score for this domain of practice. This is a really big one, so I won't go through all of them. But you then will see 32% for instructional design. You notice this bar is not complete because I didn't answer all of the questions, but it has updated my overall proficiency score for this domain of practice. So again, the self-assessment is there to give you an opportunity to think about where your current proficiency lies with each of the knowledge and skill statements. As I said, there are quite a few. We have lots of people who go in and do the self-assessment basically one domain at a time. And that gives them opportunity to reflect. It probably will take you 20 or 30 minutes to go through each domain. So a little more than an hour, somewhere between an hour and a half to do the entire model, which is why some people choose to break it down by domain of practice. So there's an opportunity for you to go through, take those things. You can always come back. And of course, what we'll talk about a little later is update your proficiency after you have had the opportunity to interact with resources that can help you close that skill gap.
Hey, Morgan, that's great timing because Shelley just asked in the chat, yes, how often can I or should I reassess?
Great question. So when we talk about the learning plan in a minute, we can talk a little bit about that, but we're basically recommending maybe every 6 months, or after you've perhaps completed a more substantial kind of resource. So if you end up signing up for a course, or if you participate in a master series program or go to the ATD conference, then you might come back and update your self-assessment. And there's a direct connection from the learning plans to that if you want to evaluate after completing a very specific resource. So again, every 6 months or so, or perhaps more frequently if you have sort of a significant professional development activity.
And then Lisa also had a great question. She said, will your score be divided by domain, or is there an overall score that combines all three?
Great question. So keep in mind that we're using, right now I'm showing you an incomplete user's profile. But after you do the self-assessment, you can click on this My Report tab, which is the 3rd tab, and that is going to roll everything up for you. So you're going to get an overall proficiency score up here, and then you're going to get that proficiency score for each domain of practice. And so as I said, you can click here to update, and it will take you right back to that particular domain of practice, and you'll see, oh, okay, I haven't done my self-assessment for these capabilities. So that will roll up. Also, we're gonna skip over this middle tile for a minute. You then also have the ability to see all of the capabilities, and they're going to be listed in proficiency order. So this user is most proficient at business insight, then instructional design, et cetera. And so these are obviously the ones that they haven't completed yet. So this kind of provides you that overall snapshot of where your proficiency lies. So your next question is, okay, I know all this stuff. I know this stuff about myself, and actually, you know what, I'll go through this. I do want to point out that we do have benchmark scores that will give you a sense of where you stand if you're interested. To all of the people that have completed the self-assessment, we've had over 13,600 talent development professionals who have completed the self-assessment since we released it. And as of this morning, their overall proficiency score sits at 48.6%. So the idea is, of course, not necessarily to be at 100% proficiency, because, you know, as I kind of said at the start, even though you might have 20 years of experience and be an expert at several things, you are probably not an expert at everything in the capability model. So it's an opportunity, again, to look at skills that perhaps you don't use very often and build some of those skill sets. I do chuckle sometimes when I have a dashboard where I can sort of see all this cumulative aggregate data, and chuckling sometimes when I can see that people have, you know, made themselves 100% proficient at several capabilities. I'm thinking, wow, okay, you know, expert level. And then if I do a little digging, you know, perhaps they don't have very much experience in the field. And so it's all about sort of being honest with yourself, again, so that you can then create a plan to help you close those gaps, which is what we're going to do right now. So after you complete your self-assessment, and again, this user has an incomplete self-assessment. So you can create a learning plan of ATD resources that is curated and designed to help you close specific knowledge and skill gaps. You can get there one of two ways. You can click on this button that says My Learning Plan, which is on the My Report page, or you can go to the navigation bar at the top and click on My Learning Plan.
Morgan, Lisa asked a follow-up question that she was curious which domain has the highest proficiency who've taken it. Yeah.
Sure. So the highest level proficiency is in the personal capability domain of practice. So all of those personal interpersonal skills and lifelong learning for talent development professionals is the top capability, specific capability, followed by training, delivery, and facilitation, communication, emotional intelligence and decision making, and then usually collaboration and leadership, although sometimes cultural awareness and inclusion, they jockey for the top 5 spot. And we do release updated benchmarks quarterly. If you go to td.org/capability model and scroll down, there's a bar that says, I think it says, learn how you stack up. And on a quarterly basis, we update those benchmarks that show the overall proficiency score by domain of practice and then by capability. So if the first time you come into the learning plan part of the process, you're actually going to land all the way over here on the right at this tab that says My Learning Path. And it's on the right, which is somewhat counterintuitive because you're probably not going to go there very frequently. So, but we are going to start there. And you have then an opportunity to select a learning path. And ATD has built a number of learning paths for you, or you can create your own. But to start with, we have 8 role-based development paths, and these have been developed using the data from our occupational survey to really emphasize the knowledge and skill statements that are going to be most important for specific job roles. So as you can imagine, someone who is in a coaching role is going to have a different set of skills that are going to be more important to them than, say, someone who's a learning technologist. We want everyone to develop their skills across the whole model, but certainly we want you to hone in on those capabilities that are going to be most relevant for your job. So you can choose a role-based development path. And again, what that is going to do, let's see, we'll pick e-learning professional. And what this is going to do is look at your self-assessment scores and compare them to the quote unquote ideal assessment scores for someone in this job role progressing throughout their career. And so it will show you where you have gaps between your stated level of proficiency for knowledge and skill statements versus what is recommended for that ideal score for someone on this path. These are essentially what you see here are 7 milestones along that path. And then you'll see the percent completion, the percent proficiency at each of those milestones. So as you update your self-assessment, as you progress along this path, along that learning journey, these scores will all change. So this, if someone were to choose this path, they would currently have 32%, be 32% of the way complete through kind of reaching the end of the e-learning professional path, which essentially should have someone with a high level of mastery across all of those capabilities that are most important for e-learning professionals. Now, if you maybe feel pretty happy with where you are in your job role, so you can use this to deepen your practice in a role you're currently in, or you can use it to say, hey, I might actually like to move over and think about becoming an independent consultant. You could then choose the independent consultant path and grow and develop your skills that would be needed to move into that role rather than progressing on a role-based path, the role that you're in now. Alternatively, if you are interested in pursuing an ATD certification, you could choose ATD certification path. And what this is going to do is, again, compare your proficiency scores with the ideal score for a successful candidate on that path. And it's only going to look at the knowledge and skill statements that are covered on that particular exam. Neither the APTD nor the CPTD exam cover every single thing in the model. So it is a way, if you're looking at pursuing certification, to kind of hone in on where do I stand against those things that are going to be tested on the exam. And then it will help connect you to resources that, again, will help you close the gaps for those knowledge and skills that you need to work on in order to be in a good position to be successful. We do not use these scores in any way, shape, or form to determine eligibility. I have to give that little disclaimer, because we have people who are very worried about completing their self-assessment, but this is your self-assessment. Technically, I'm the only person that can see an individual self-assessment, and it's only so that I can help you from a technological standpoint, but I'm only looking at aggregate data in my dashboard. So the final thing that you could choose is kind of create your own path, which I also like to call just choose your own adventure. And that's if you know that there's a specific capability that you want to focus on. And so again, it's going to compare your knowledge, your proficiency level ratings to that expert level rating 5 in whatever capability you choose. So if you're working through a challenge at work and you think, hey, we're revamping our program evaluations and I'd like to enhance my evaluating impact skills, you might then choose the create your own path and then just look at where you have skill gaps in that one capability and connect to resources that will help you there. So create your own, again, just looks at your scores against that expert level. So let's choose that e-learning professional path. And you have to make sure you click the orange button at the bottom to select this path. And I have job aids for this. And then we're going to move to the middle tab, which is learning resources. And this is where we're going to see where our knowledge and skill gaps are. And keep in mind that we haven't completed the self-assessment. So let's look in learning sciences, because I know we've completed some of this. So you'll see here, we expand learning sciences. It says we have 4 gaps. And it's going to show you each of the knowledge and skill statements in which you have a gap. So you'll see here on the right, for knowledge of foundational learning theories, my current proficiency is 1 and my target is 3. So I've got a big gap to fill there. Down here, we see my current proficiency is 3 and my target is 4. And again, that's to progress on this e-learning professional path. So if I decide I would like to close some skill gaps in foundational learning theories, I just click on this resources to develop this skill. And it is magically going to connect you to ATD resources that we have a team that is curating resources specifically for this tool. So it's not everything you might possibly find on the ATD website, but it's kind of more narrowly focused. And we have also leveled these resources so that in this case, the user is a level 1 proficiency level. And so the resources that they're going to get are going to be more basic than someone who might be level 2 or level 3 trying to move up to level 4. So you won't see all the same resources all the time. But there's a variety of types of resources. There are publications, articles, videos, recorded conference sessions, certainly courses, that are for purchase to take, books to read, all kinds of things. Our tools and templates collection from TD at Work, whole host of things. 2 ways you can narrow this list. You can go up here and use the filter and say, I only want to look at video. And then it will only show you video, or, I only want courses, and it'll show you courses. The next thing to note is these little orange stars. If you are an ATD member, the resources with an orange star are something that you have included as part of your membership. There are free resources here. There are resources for purchase, kind of the whole gamut, but that little orange star, if you're an ATD member, will help you know, hey, that's part of my membership. So you'll see all these resources available, and then you see this little box. And so you can take a look. If you want to know more about something, you can expand it. Or if you just say, hey, that's for me, all you have to do is click this little box, which says add to my plan. And you go through and you can click away, add whatever you would like to your learning plan. And when you're all done looking at all of your knowledge and skill gaps, you can then click over to the far left to your learning plan. And there you will find all of the resources that you selected on your learning plan. So you could use this to try to keep yourself accountable and keep on your learning path. I see the question up there. When you say ATD member, am I referring only to national members? What would chapter members have access to? So good question. I actually am not the best person to answer that question because membership is not part of my skill set. But yes, largely I'm talking about ATD National members. There are some things that chapter only members would have access to, but they would likely be the same things that were free to everyone. So that star is going to appear whether or not you are an ATD member, but is simply going to indicate what's included as part of an ATD, in this case, national membership. So here you have all these things on your learning plan. I was talking to someone the other day that I had 168 resources on their learning plan, which is why we created this sort of little up next category. And you can actually take a resource down here and drag it up here. And we suggest that you look at your learning plan kind of on a quarterly basis and drag things to the up next section that are things that you want to interact with over the next quarter so that they're there. And again, chunk it out for yourself so it's not overwhelming, and be able to progress through your learning plan. When you have completed use of a resource, you can come back here and you can click this little completed box. And now it's going to invite you to update your assessment. If you click on update my assessment now, it's going to take you back to the capability that is associated with that resource. So in this case, learning sciences, so that you could update your self-assessment. Again, I wouldn't suggest doing that after every single resource. That's probably overkill. So you can just say no thanks, but you can come back to this, again, maybe twice a year to look at reassessing where you feel your proficiency lies. After, again, your completed resources are up here. They also are up here, so that if you are applying for certification and you need to document the professional development that you've interacted with, articles and things don't count, but courses and videos and webinars, webcasts do count. So you would have a listing of them here to make it easy to include those in your certification application. Same as well if you are applying for recertification if you're already certified. So again, this is something that you can come back to over time. And as I pointed out, this particular user, she's the e-learning, on the e-learning professional path, she now has 10 resources on her learning plan. And if she were to go back to her ATD profile, and I'm not sure I can get back there easily, it would actually show on the tile in her My ATD dashboard which learning path she had selected and how many resources were on her learning plan. I'm going to hop back really quick to my slides, but please feel free to keep all those questions coming. The slides that I will share with Debbie that she can distribute to you will actually have all those steps in it so that you can follow along, as well as a little orientation as to what each of those things mean. I did actually have a slide about proficiency scores. This is the users all across the world. Again, over 13,000, almost 14,000 people. And that average proficiency score, is a culmination of all of their scores. I did actually peek at Nebraska before we hopped on the call. There are only 32 people from the chapter's sort of catchment area, and this is not necessarily people who are members of either the chapter or national members. This is any customer within a 100-mile radius of the chapter who has completed the self-assessment. There were 32 people with an overall proficiency score of 54.5%. So certainly an opportunity to, during Employee Learning Week, to think about your own learning, as Debbie said, from the certification perspective. I hear from people all the time who say, you know, I haven't done any professional development in the past 3 years because I'm too busy developing other people. But of course, it, you know, is important to keep our own skills sharp and have the best skill set available to folks. So let me take a look at some questions. If you don't have a rule-based path, you want to create or follow and go with create your own. Do you recommend an area you want to focus on? So if you choose, the question is, if you choose your own, you can see it in the chat. Should you focus on a low percentage area from the self-assessment? So if you don't have something specific that you already know that you want to focus on, sure, that's a great way to approach it. I have an ongoing philosophical conversation with a chapter leader in New York State who insists to me that because even though technology application is his lowest rated capability, he has no plans to learn anything about it because he doesn't have to do it and has other people that will do it for him. So that's his prerogative. I think he would be a much better partner with those folks if he would get some technology application knowledge and skills under his belt, but that is really his choice. So sure, if you don't want to pursue a role-based path, looking at something that perhaps maybe you're curious about. Maybe it's not something that's part of your current job role, but it's something that, hey, I don't know anything about that. That's a great place to start. Or again, if you're having a particular challenge at work, choosing the capability that has some knowledge or skills that might help you with that challenge is also a great way to select something. But there's no right way to do it. It really is your personalized learning plan, and you know, it's something that you can choose and follow for yourself. So I'm going to just go to my little Q&A page if you want to know more about the capability model, how it was developed. We also have the talent development body of knowledge, just what it sounds like. It's a compendium of all of the things that are found in the capability model, fleshes out all of those knowledge and skill statements. It's a great resource for talent development professionals at any stage of their career. We also have information about the actual research that we did. There are job aids around completing the self-assessment, but I'll make sure Debbie gets those to distribute to you. But if you have any questions, either specifically about the model or after you get into looking at the self-assessment or creating a learning plan, you can send an email to capabilitymodel@td.org. I monitor that box along with a couple other folks. And so there's lots of resources available to you. So please feel free if you have any other questions to pop them into the chat. I know we're kind of at the end of our time, but I certainly hope that as we start Employee Learning Week, that you use this as a resource, something to refer back to. We also, just in case anyone's curious, we do have a team version of the capability model where we have a tool that will aggregate all of the self-assessments across your team and give you some insight as a manager into where you have skill strengths and gaps. And again, then you can create a team learning plan in the same way here. So thanks,
Awesome.
everybody.
Yes, thank you, Morgan. Great questions, great participation. Appreciate you all's time. And hopefully we see you all next at the conference. And like I said, you can meet Morgan in person and ask her more questions. So we appreciate everyone's time and have a wonderful afternoon.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.